Smurd
Welcome to another Smurd video, and this week we are looking at the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. So most memorably for die-hard fans, you usually remember the original Brotherhood, which is here, and then the second Brotherhood which followed. So I'm just going to run through them and show you the figures and hopefully share some interesting facts. We're going to start with Pyro, and this was one of the figures that came around 2006, I think, maybe before then. It's a really nice figure. The character himself died in the early 2000s or late 90s due to the legacy virus getting hold of him, and I think in the end he actually sacrificed himself to save Senator Kelly. I could be wrong. You may want to come back and say, no, that's absolutely wrong. He did not die saving his life because he burnt out himself. So in terms of the figure, I think he's a really nice figure. Ignore the dust at the back. I clearly need to give him a good dust. This is what you'd want from a Pyro figure. I think he looks pretty nice. Quite straightforward paint apps. Quite a straightforward figure, really. It looks nice. There is a Classics Avalanche, which I don't have as part of this team. If I could get him, I think, and if they release a Destiny, I think it would be nice to have this second group from the Days of Future Past storyline, because for me that's quite an important story. Next we have Fred J. Dirks, aka the Blob. The Blob was part of, he actually joined Magneto's original Brotherhood for a time, but it was kind of short-lived. His origins led him from a circus, and he was depowered after M-Day. However, in recent all-new X-Men, there is a Blob, but I'm not sure if it's the Blob from the alternative Age of Apocalypse universe or from this, because that Blob seems to eat people, and he seems to be a hell of a lot grosser than our Blob, if that makes sense. Like, he's like the extreme Blob, complete opposite. In terms of this builder figure, I think it was really nice. It's just quite, how can I put it, disgusting. Look at all those chins. I've got double chins, but these are some real chins. The fat, this is the Blob. This is what he looks like. This is what you want. You want to see him sat on Wolverine's, I'm not going to say face, that's just disgusting. Right, so there we go. There's the Blob. Next up, Mystique from 2. Here we have Mystique. And Mystique is probably the most known out of all of the second Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. She obviously has made a big impact on the movies, but in the comics as well. She set up this whole utopia in Madripoor, where they were, basically she was taking, I can't remember exactly what it was from Dazzler, but she was taking it and producing a kind of mutant-like drug, which was, I think, originally introduced in All New X-Men. But yeah, she's had an interesting storylines over the years, and one of them being having a child with Charles Xavier, which was crazy. But she's been in charge of Freedom Force, and her main reason for what she does usually is to do with Rogue, etc. And obviously she lost the love of her life, Destiny, back in the early 90s or late 80s. And I think that had a whole kind of impact on the direction she went off. She'd been part of X Factor, part of the X-Men, and now she's recently turned up in Uncanny X-Men with Phantom X, leading the Hellfire Club. So it's kind of a bit, she's clearly in for some interesting times. In terms of the figure, I like the figure. I think it's nice. It's got some nice paint outs. I mean, look at those little skulls. It was good for its time. I do think we probably owed a new updated version. There's some really nice female molds, and it would be nice to be able to do something with the actual hands. This is, it's past its sell date, but for now I think it will carry on being my Mystique in my collection. First up from the original Brotherhood is Toad, and Toad is from Marvel Legends Series 1. You know, he's the first mutant other than Namor that they actually brought out in this series. And I think he's nice for his time, but obviously, you know, there's no real articulation. They were mainly used as kind of, you know, like Marvel statues back then. But he is a really nice head sculpt. It's just, you can't really do much with him, which is sometimes frustrating. In terms of his comics, you know, he's gone from being the Magneto groveler, because, you know, he clearly loved Magneto, he loved what he represented, and, you know, he wanted to be there with him next to his side. Even in Grant Morrison's new X-Men, he was still wanting to be by his side. But since then, since Decimation, etc., he's kind of, you know, changed, but he's not really changed. So he joined Wolverine at the school in Wolverine and the X-Men, became the janitor, and I thought he was actually a really good, cool character to have there. You know, this nobody tree, and, you know, he's cleaning up, etc. You know, in some ways he was kind of like the heart of that school, and he fell for Husk, Paige Gumphrey, who was clearly go through a metamorphosis of her skins, and she kind of joined these kids from the Hellfire Club, which was bizarre in itself. And she roped in Toad to do kind of lots of weird, awful things, not like really bad. And then in the end, you know, Mortimer just, well, he left because he was heartbroken because Husk didn't want him. So I don't think we've seen him since. If we have, tell me, because I've not read anything with him recently. But yeah, I think, you know, he's a character that, you know, you give him an opportunity, I think he'll come through for you. So let's hope we actually see him maybe in the next Men team, but obviously they're kind of scattered to the winds at the moment. We don't even know where most of them are, so I think it'll be a long time before we actually see Toad. Quicksilver, one of the original followers of Magneto, but he wasn't really a follower. He did it because Magneto saved Wanda, and he was, you know, Wanda felt that she owed Magneto a debt, if I remember correctly, and Quicksilver stayed there to protect her, I guess. So for me, he was part of the Avengers for a long time, if I remember correctly. He married Crystal, they have a kid together, and the only time that I probably read him was when he did that little stint in X Factor after House of M, after, you know, he told Wanda to, you know, change everything, and she did, and she made some, you know, no more mutants statement, which I'll get to in a minute. So, and he came back and he was using the Terrigen mists to recreate mutants, but it's not really a mutation sort of thing. So it was kind of unstable, and for me, I don't really like Quicksilver. You know, he's fast, arrogant, and he just kind of irritated me a bit. But I'm reading him in Uncanny Avengers at the moment, where they seem to have mutants, Avengers, and Inhumans to once again have this kind of unity team. And, you know, so far he seems to be perhaps different to what I expected. So I'm going to carry on reading it. I'm going to give him a try. Maybe he'll turn out to be what I think he is. Maybe he'll turn out to be what I don't think he is. But he's also been in All New X Factor. I haven't read that. The Polaris team with the government, which was kind of short-lived. So in terms of this figure, there is a variant. There's a green variant, which is more attuned to when he was part of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. With this was more about his Avengers status. So it's quite a nice figure. Probably very basic. The trouble is you probably want to put him in some run poses, and it is sometimes difficult, but, you know, it works. It works. Any X-Men fan will probably tell you that they don't actually like Scarlet Witch. She was more part of the Avengers than the mutant world. However, in 2005, she literally dissembled the Avengers, killing a few of them, and she became mentally unstable to do with these kids she basically made, and she did some crazy things, Magneto and Xavier and Doctor Strange were trying to help her, and it all kind of failed. Xavier was meeting with the Avengers and X-Men, and Quicksilver thought, oh, they're going to kill her, which I don't think was going to happen, but he jumped to conclusions, and then basically she created this alternative world, House of M, where Magneto and mutants ruled, and by the end of that, she said no more mutants, and basically we were left with 198 mutants with their powers, and there was a lot of deaths, etc., and it all kind of went to hell. We found out later on in Children's Crusade that it was kind of Doctor Doom pulling the strings. I probably need to go back and read it again, because I'm pretty sure that's what happened. And since then, she's been in Uncanny Avengers with part of this Unity team. So we've had a Scarlet Witch before, and she looked absolutely like a doll. She was just absolutely shameful, that release. But this one's really nice. The only thing that irritates me is, well, you know, I can't have these floppy legs, which is kind of a bit annoying. But other than that, you know, I think she's really nice. The body mold's really good. I think this comes down a little bit too far, so you kind of end up with this pose instead of, you know, you could do something perhaps better with her. But yeah, nice figure, nice head sculpt. The head sculpt is absolutely perfect, I think. That's probably the best part of this thing. And ignore the dust. Yeah, there we go, Scarlet Witch. And last but not least, and that was my pyro falling over in the background, we have Marvel Legends Series 3 Magneto. And from what I gather, this original mold came from an Iron Man mold, which is why he looks like such a meathead. But I actually think it's quite cool. You know, I like the fact that you can take the helmet off for a start. You know, he probably has a big waist belt. But I think it looks quite nice. You just got to be careful, because these figures are old now, so the stuff inside is not as strong as perhaps what it originally was. You know, I had an old figure of this, and the arm just randomly popped off recently. I've got a Sabretooth that the arms popped off, which is, you know, it's kind of disappointing, because I really like that mold, that Sabretooth mold, not the Magneto mold. I'm not really fussed. We've got a new Magneto for this kind of era. The only problem with that one is this doesn't come off, this helmet. If the helmet came off, it would have been perfect. And the same with the Build-A-Figure Juggernaut. Why not have it so that his helmet could be removed? You know, it should be a given, you know what I mean? We invest a lot as collectors into these molds. It's not just kids that get these figures. So, but in terms of this figure, you know, he's really nice. So Magneto over the last few years kind of joined Scott Summers' cause, realizing that perhaps Scott Summers' way was perhaps a bit of his and a bit of Xavier's. The jury's still out on that. Since then, Scott's gone missing. I think we're going to find out what happened between him, the Inhumans, and the X-Men in Death of X. So, but Magneto currently is leading the team in Uncanny X-Men, and it's kind of like more along the lines of a kind of X-Force team, which is kind of weird. And he's leading Sabretooth, Psylocke, M. Who else is in it? Damn, my brain's gone numb. Did I say Sabretooth, Psylocke? I'm sure there's somebody else, I just can't think of it at the moment. But yeah, he you know, he's clearly got an agenda. He's got a plan. I'm also reading the Inhuman story, so it would be nice to see the bit where the Inhumans kind of rose and the mutant kind of diminished with this Terrigen cloud. So at the moment, I'm loving Magneto's stuff, you know, and even his Solar series that came out, what, 2 years ago, I think it started. One of the best solo series I have read in a long time. If you haven't picked it up, pick it up. But yeah, this figure still works in the collection. You know, it still has its moments. Oh, Sorry, right, I'm going to finish up in a minute. But yeah, we go. In terms of how you want to set your figures up at the moment, currently, I have Magneto in this position, I have Xavier on the other side, and it's kind of like these two kind of not equal Scott, but Scott's taken. He's over the years been influenced by what Magneto's believed and what Xavier's believed, and this is how he's how he kind of ends up, you know, a bit of both in a way, you know, but he also did his thing leading them from extinction. So I don't want to take away from the figure because I've got to do that Scott figure at some point. And if you got enough X-Men and villains, so to speak, you can obviously do cool things like this. You can get Namor collecting Quicksilver, Beast throwing Toad, Blob crushing Wolverine's thing, but he's coming in for the second cut. Banshee for some reason trying to take on Scar the Witch, and then these two having a girly moment together, and Cyclops, the original, taking on Magneto as he would have without question. So there we have it. Do you like these figures? Have you got these figures? Are they your favourite? Are they your worst? Please comment, like and subscribe. And once again, thank you for watching. It is appreciated. Take care.